I'm talking about literature searching for rapid reviews today, um, specifically about some recommendations we have developed, and I also will give some practical examples and introduce or talk about some useful tools for the search process in this context. But first, I would like to know a bit more about my audience. My first question, yes, the poll should already be here, is who are you? So, yeah, as we see, we have lots of information specialists and librarians, but also about half of you are from other areas. Um, Thank you very much for answering. It's great to have such a diverse crowd. Um, and my second question would be, what is your experience with rapid reviews? Okay, thank you very much. So about half of you have not worked on rapid reviews before, and the other half has some or even a lot of experience. I hope this talk will provide something for everybody. And well, if there are questions, as Barbara said, please put them into the chat and we will see about answering them at the end of the talk. Thank you very much. So, well, if you already joined the last talk in this series, you have already seen this slide about the definition of Cochrane Rapid Reviews. And the important parts here is aiming to speed up the review process, usually by simplifying or omitting methods. So what does this mean for the rapid review search process? In rapid review searches, we usually aim to abbreviate or limit the systematic literature search process in some way to accelerate the review production as a whole. That means there are two options for this, either by reducing the time spent on conducting the searches or by reducing the size of the search result, which then will speed up the rest of the review process, specifically the screening process. The context of my talk today is the Cochrane Rapid Review Methods Guidance, but also and more specifically a paper I co-authored, which specifically provides guidance on literature searching for rapid reviews. The Cochrane Rapid Review Methods Guidance covers obviously the complete rapid review process. It was first published in 2021 and has been updated and will be published soon. And I want to talk a bit about this overall guidance in relation to searching. So the updated guidance has 23 recommendations, and the focus of the guidance is Cochrane reviews of health intervention effectiveness, and it is designed to be adaptable to non-Cochrane reviews of effectiveness. And one of the important considerations is that teams who follow this guidance need to have access to essential resources, which also includes relevant electronic or bibliographic databases. And this guidance contains 4 recommendations about searching. The first one is to involve an information specialist. Then the second one, to select at least 2 bibliographic databases. Then to use the PRESS checklist to peer review the primary database search strategy. And finally, to assess if gray literature or supplemental searching is necessary for the topic. I will not go into these recommendations into more detail because all of these topics are also covered by the more detailed search guidance I will talk about in a moment. But before I go on to talk about the search guidance, one of the recommendations here, which is not different from guidance on conducting systematic reviews, is that a review process should include an information specialist or medical librarian, something like that, an expert searcher. And so what I would like to know, for those of you who are not already information specialists, librarians, or the like, is do you have access to someone like this when you conduct reviews? So, thank you for your answers. We see that we have more or less a parity. So we have many people who actually have information specialists who design and conduct the searches, which is the ideal situation. We have some where information specialists provide feedback, which is also very great. And then we have about a third which who have no support from information specialists, which is not ideal, I have to admit. But it's the reality, and it's what we find when we talk to author teams time and again. So thank you. And with this point in mind, I'm going to talk now more in detail about our guidance on literature searching. So for a bit of a context, it's part of an article series that we wrote on behalf of the Cochrane Rapid Review Methods Group. And it contains recommendations that derive from current systematic search guidance, from evidence-based about modified or abbreviated search processes, and from practical experience in conducting rapid reviews. And so our guidance was designed to be compatible with the overall rapid review methods guidance I talked about earlier. But we also aimed for it to be compatible or to be applicable to most rapid reviews. So not only effectiveness rapid reviews, and to be usable by teams who don't have access to costly databases. It's debatable how successful we were, but this is our aim. And for this reason, we could not choose a one-size-fits-all approach. Instead, we aimed at facilitating the choice of appropriate methods and to improve the understanding of limitations of modified search methods. Our recommendations cover the whole review process. We separated them into 5 areas. And as you will see, some recommendations really do not differ from full systematic reviews, but we felt it was important to not only pick the things that are different, but to present the complete search process. And the publication also contains an appendix, which has examples and links to tools and additional practical considerations. Most of the examples and tools I will talk about today are actually from the appendix, but I will focus also on tools that are free or have a free version. So our first set of recommendations concerns preparation and planning. And here we have few differences to the systematic search guidance for systematic reviews, because we believe that preparation is crucial, and time can be saved, first of all, by involving information specialists, but also by using templates and standards, and by appropriate scoping or preliminary searches. So information specialist involvement at a minimum should be providing feedback on the information sources, on the search methods, on the primary database search strategy. But ideally, an information specialist should design and conduct the searches. And our recommendation would be that this information specialist already has experience in conducting searches, because people who have more routine and more experience will probably be able to design the searches and conduct the searches more quickly. They will be more aware of relevant information sources and search methods, and they are probably less likely to make grave errors, although everybody can make errors, which is why quality assurance is also important. And another thing that I want to stress is the importance of preliminary searching or scoping searching, and I will come back to that time and again, because it really helps us to plan the whole review, not just the search process. The second area of recommendations concerns the information sources and search methods. And here we do have differences to recommendations for systematic searching in systematic reviews. Systematic searches for systematic reviews usually stress the importance of maximizing the search sensitivity at any cost. When in our rapid review guidance, we propose using shortcuts to save time spent on searching, but also, and maybe more importantly, to reduce the number of records found. And the first recommendation is to use at least 2 highly relevant information sources. It's really important that these information sources are very relevant to the research question. And you might notice a difference in wording here. We write information sources. This is a difference to the overall Cochrane Rapid Review Guidance, which recommends 2 bibliographic databases. 2 information sources in this case could also be 1 bibliographic database and 1 supplementary search method. The reasoning here is, on the one hand, our scope for this guidance is broader, and the appropriate search approach differs or can differ a lot depending on the review topic. But it might also be a question of access. So as we all know, Medline is freely available via PubMed, but many other useful bibliographic databases are not free. And so you might need to consider what additional search methods you should use if you do not have access to licensed databases. We have additional specific guidance for finding randomized controlled trials, because this is an area that is very well researched, and these recommendations are basically the same as in the Cochrane Rapid Review Methods guidance. So we recommend at least using 2 databases from among 3 databases, namely Medline, Embase, or Central. And in some cases, it might be acceptable to use one of these databases, most likely Medline, and combine it with an appropriate supplementary search method, for example, PubMed similar articles. And we also recommend to assess if gray literature will be relevant to the topic based on the findings of the preliminary or scoping search. And this can be this really depends on the topic. So if you think back to the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, there was not a lot of published literature, but there was a lot of preprints, and preprints are a type of gray literature and in the case of rapid reviews on COVID-19, if you say, oh, we don't need gray literature, we are not going to search for preprints, then you would have probably missed a lot of the most recent study results. So based on my first two areas of recommendations, I have a first example for you, which concerns this planning stage. As Barbara mentioned, I work, amongst other things, for a on-demand rapid review service for hospital doctors. And generally, we receive focused questions about clinical treatments. So we have designed standard search approaches that are appropriate for these kind of questions. We have a set of 3 databases, which we usually search: Ovid, Medline, the Cochrane Library, and Epistemonics, to find systematic reviews and randomized controlled trials. We also usually only search for published literature, and we have templates for everything. So question intake for the search assignment I receive, for the search strategy draft and explanations of the search strategy that I send to the reviewers, and for the documentation and reporting of the searches. So this saves us time in the communication process, so we don't have to discuss so much because we have our standardized approach. And because we use a limited number of databases, the search results are usually quite small. But this is an on-demand service, so sometimes people ask questions that do not fit in our scheme. For example, we received a question about standardized instruments to evaluate sociability in psychiatric populations. And this is not an effectiveness question. So the first thing we do whenever we prepare a review is scoping searches or preliminary searches. And based on the findings of these searches, we found that most of our standard search approaches really are not appropriate for this topic. And I'd like to quickly talk a bit more about preliminary searching. So these are searches that are not systematic. They are conducted in the protocol phase of a review. They are useful for topic refinement, for identification of existing systematic reviews. So maybe a rapid review is not even necessary. And to identify potentially relevant primary studies, and also estimate the resources that will be necessary to perform the rapid review. These searches are usually iterative. So we first search for systematic reviews. We search for a small set of primary studies, and we might conduct citation-based searching. And these citation-based searches are important because the result does not depend on the pre-selected search terms. At our rapid review service, these preliminary searches are mainly conducted by the reviewers themselves while they are working on the research question. And then I, as an information specialist, often do additional searching based on these findings, and we will discuss the question further if necessary. I have put here a list of sources that can be relevant for citation-based searching. You are probably familiar with most of them: PubMed similar articles, And Google Scholar has functions for also similar articles, but also forward citation tracking. And finally, Connected Papers uses citation networks based on co-cited and co-citing references. So going back to my request about the tools to evaluate sociability, as I said, it's really important if I limit the number of information sources for a rapid review to really choose the information sources and search approaches that are most relevant for the topic. And this meant for our question that we ended up doing broad searches in databases for psychiatric tests and in PsycInfo, and doing a precision-focused search in Medline. Precision-focused in this context meant limited to titles and author keywords, which brings me to my, and we also did not limit to study design or document type. So we also included query literature. So the concept of precision-focused searching brings me to my recommendations on search strategies. And here the focus is on balancing the sensitivity and precision of the search strategies. Rapid review search strategies may focus on increasing the precision and accept that most, but not all, relevant studies might be found. I will come back to this concept of sensitivity and precision in a moment. Although at least half of you are information specialists and probably do not need the reminder what this means. But overall, we recommend that that search terms should be chosen based on the findings from the preliminary searches. Using known relevant records, it's very useful to use text analysis tools to select search terms. And it's possible that there are existing search strategies or elements of search strategies that can be reused. But if you reuse existing search strategies, for example, when updating a systematic review, which is also an option for rapid reviews, it's important to assess the original search strategies and search methods to check if they are they are appropriate for your topic. And while general guidance for systematic searches for systematic reviews usually advises against using time limits or language limitations, this might be appropriate in rapid review searches, but these limitations also need to be decided upon based on the specific research question. So we would advise against saying, oh, we always limit to the last 5 years. Things like that should be decided based on the specific question. And the next area of recommendations, which is closely related to the search strategies, is quality assurance and peer review of search strategies. So these are also things that are recommended for systematic searches in general. In a context where we use abbreviated search methods, quality assurance becomes even more important, because if I only search 2 databases and one database search strategy has a really serious area that might be a problem for my complete search process compared to a standard Cochrane review, for example, where we use 10 databases and also free supplementary search methods, where having an error in one of these searches might not have that much weight overall. We also recommend validating the primary search strategy by testing if non-relevant records are retrieved. Keeping in mind that we are still trying to balance precision and sensitivity. And we recommend using the PRESS checklist to peer review the primary search strategy. But if for some reason a full peer review is not possible, at very least, the primary search strategy should be checked for errors in spelling, in the use of operators, so Boolean operators specifically, and in the combination of lines if you do a multi-line search. Which brings me to my second example, which focuses on the uses of non-relevant records in creating systematic searches for rapid reviews or in general. And I hope I don't bore anybody too much, but I want to come back to this concept of sensitivity and precision. So in my figure on the left-hand side, the square is the entirety of a database and the circle is the search result. The search result will contain both relevant and irrelevant documents. And the sensitivity is the proportion of relevant results in the search result compared to all of the relevant documents you might find. In systematic searches, we generally aim for a high sensitivity, but this means that precision will be low. So you will have a large search result with many irrelevant records. The idea of using known relevant studies means we gain knowledge about how relevant records should look like and can use this knowledge to better balance out the sensitivity and the precision of the search. So in a systematic search, this might mean I find, or this should mean that's our goal, I find as many relevant records as possible. However, this also will mean that I might end up with a very large search result. And so for a rapid review search, it might be acceptable to say, okay, I will conduct a search which finds the vast majority of relevant records, but I know there is a bit I will miss, and I will accept that because the search result as a whole, the number of records retrieved, becomes more manageable. In an example, we have another question here. What is the effect of oral contraceptives on the exercise performance of adult women? The researcher found a handful of relevant documents, and the first relevant document we have here in the list is a systematic review. So with a systematic review in our search, we can do two things. On the one hand, we can evaluate if we can just use the searches from the systematic review and update them. But the other thing is we can look at the included studies of the systematic review, select those studies that are specifically relevant to our research question and add them to our list of known relevant studies. And often we find that the systematic review questions might be a bit broader than what we have in our focused clinical questions. So this is the approach we take at our rapid review service most often. And once I have a nice set of potentially relevant studies, I can use text analysis tools to identify potentially relevant search terms. I have listed 3 tools here that are free to use. The first one you are probably all familiar with is called PubReminer, and as the name implies, you can use it based on PubMed Medline records. It gives you word frequencies of single terms and also of mesh terms. It's very easy to use and very useful. Then we have the Systematic Review Accelerator, which includes a word frequency analysis tool, which can be used with any type of database results. So it's not limited to PubMed. And it can show weighted word frequency both of single terms and of phrases. And the final tool, which is the newest and not included in our appendix because it is so new, is Search Builder. This one can also be used with any type of bibliographic data, but it focuses on Medline because it identifies overrepresented terms compared to a random PubMed sample. And using these tools, we can then identify terms or phrases we should use in our search process, which brings me to an example about balancing sensitivity and precision. We have here the search strategy draft for the question about exercise performance and oral contraceptives. And we have separated the search terms for the concept of exercise performance into 3 categories. The most relevant, one that is probably also relevant but not as much used, and then a very broad and not as relevant section. And here, this list of numbers represents our known relevant records. We see there are 26 known relevant records, and if I only use the most specific search terms, I find 21 of them. If I combine the most specific with these which are not as specific, I find 24 out of 26. And if I use the whole set of search terms, I find 26 out of 26. So if I use all of the search terms, I have the most sensitive search. And for a standard systematic review search, that's probably what I would do. I would just use all of these search terms. For our rapid review, we also look at the number of search results found. And we see there is a very huge jump between using only the first 2 sets and the third set as well. The number of results is more than doubled. So in a rapid review, we then can consider saying, okay, if I use only these 2 sets of more highly relevant search terms, I still find 24 of the 26 studies I already know, which is probably good enough for a rapid review. And it saves the person doing the screening or the persons doing the screening quite a lot of time because the search result is much smaller. But this is obviously not a decision you can take. Well, this is a decision that needs to be taken based on the specific case. So there is no rule that is applicable to every topic or every search. Our final set of recommendations concerns reporting and management, and here we have really no difference to the general systematic search guidance. You can save time by involving expert searchers who knows what they are doing, and by using templates and standards which you would have already decided upon at the start of the process. And so it's really important to plan also the record management process at the start of the project to make sure everybody knows what data format, what reporting standards, and so on will be used. And that brings me to my final list of examples, which are tools for the systematic process that can be adapted or used for rapid review searches as well. I already mentioned the Systematic Review Accelerator, and this is a web tool that includes not only text analysis, but also tools for search strategy refinement, translation of search strategies, deduplication of search results, citation searching, and even a tool for writing the methods section. There is also a tool or a toolkit aimed at librarians or information specialists that provides templates for the communication with systematic searches and for planning the search process. Then we have an example of an Excel template for planning, designing, and documenting database search strategies. And finally, a collection of templates and checklists for the systematic review process, which focuses on protocol development and search development. And this brings me to the end of my talk. I have a list of references as well.